I'll just say who I am. I'm Terry Horton. I work for OTC Optima, and we're a consultancy who are trying to help people with project management and earn value. Not a large consultancy, about 12 of us, okay? I've worked on a number of projects across a number of industries. Construction, oil and gas, A&D, and in the public sector. I've also implemented several project management solutions, mainly Artemis, and I've carried out a number of audits on small and large projects, mainly in the defence industry. I was going to say, why have a mature schedule? What do I mean by schedule maturity? And then, how can you measure your maturity? How can you check your measures? And are there any tools that will help? Obviously, there's always tools everywhere. And also, what benefits can you get from having a mature schedule? Okay, why have a mature schedule? Your policies and standards are going to demand it. Somewhere in your policies and standards, it's going to say you must have a robust, mature schedule. Your customers are going to demand it, and your managers will demand it. And your managers will sit down and they're going to check the quality. And a sound schedule will ultimately lead to project success. And a weak schedule gets changed all the time. It's changed repeatedly. People come along and go, well, this is wrong, let's change it here, let's update here. And most importantly, what about professional pride? Surely no one wants to do a plan or a schedule that's not very good. I mean schedule maturity. I'm not talking about project management maturity, okay? Although schedule maturity is a part of project management maturity, I'm not looking at the whole lot, just your plan or just your network, i.e. how good is my schedule or how good is your schedule. And we're not talking about a technical solution to the project, okay? When you're looking at the project for its quality, you can't say if the duration's right, you can't say if the logic's quite right. It's just the overall picture of the plan. And what we're looking at is it a good schedule? Does it make sense? Does it all tie up? And what constitutes a sound schedule? Any schedule is a forecast. As soon as the schedule is drawn, it's out of date. Something's gone wrong, something's changed, or someone's come along and there's a change order. But a schedule is used as a benchmark against which you're going to measure performance, what you're doing, how well you're doing, or how bad you're doing. It's also a means of defining responsibility. Who's doing what, when are they doing it, and where are they doing it? And also it's a way of communicating what's happening to stakeholders. It's about the only thing that stakeholders can see which gives them a picture of what's going on and what's been done. Need my glasses now. And there's really 5 steps to come out with a good schedule. What you've got to do first is make sure you've got all the scope, all the activities in there. Then you have to link all these activities somehow with some sort of logic. Then the third step is to apply some risk. I'm not going to talk about risk, but you really need to think about risk when you're doing a schedule. Then you want to get rid of what I call hotspots, or your centres where all the links come together. And then you have to get the project team and the customer to accept the schedule. So those are the five key steps. And most people would tend to go through those steps automatically without realising they're going through it. Critical path, the building blocks. You've got a project which is giving you the start and finish dates of what you've got to do, and it lists all the things you've got to do. Then you've got activities, and activities give you durations for certain bits of work. So any project will comprise hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of little bits of activities. Then you have links, and this is how you join all these different activities together into one nice picture. Then you have calendars, and it tells you when the activities, when the resources can work, and when the activities can take place. You've got constraints. There's always constraints on a plan. You've got to deliver something, or you've got to pick something up. So there's always some constraints somewhere across the plan. And you've got resources. You know, it defines who or what is available, and by resources it could be people, it could be equipment, it could be materials, it could be anything that's consumed by an activity. And then you've got resource assignments, which is linking the executors back to the work. Now, scheduling tools like Microsoft Project or Asta or Primavera are very, very good at modelling all these different parts. But they don't make sure that all these little blocks are used correctly. There was some research done very, very recently in the States when they looked at 37 projects, capital projects, and they ranged from 15 million up to $30 billion, okay? And what these people did, they came up with a graph with a flash title called Finished Compliance Index and Schedule Quality Index. And what they meant by Finished Compliance Index was they looked at these projects and said which activities did actually finish and start when they should have done according to the baseline. And then they looked at Schedule Quality Index and they said, okay, let's look at all the different things that can go wrong in the plan. Let's give them some weighting and let's draw a graph. So they drew a graph, baseline compliance matrix. I mean, obviously, being American, they've got some nice flash words. I mean, I think in England we'd have simpler words. And what they've done, they've plotted when the activity's finished, i.e., you know, did they finish when they should have finished, and how good was the plan. And it shows that when the plan's only about a quarter good, a third good, you're only hitting about 60% of the days. When you're getting up to sort of 70%, you're starting to hit 90% of the days. And obviously no plan will ever be 100% good quality. It's impossible unless it's a single activity, okay? So that shows that the better the quality, the greater the chance of hitting your end dates and your cost, profit. Gantt charts. Everyone uses Gantt charts, bar charts. Not like in the good old days when you had a nice little timeline per networks. And to look at these plans, you really need to access the plan. It can either be on a tool or on reams and reams of paper. If it's in a tool, you've got to be a skilled user. If you've got a hard copy, you can't really see what's going on because there's so many colours and lines and numbers everywhere. They're vertical in nature. You know, there's a row per activity, and humans like nice, pretty pictures with a timeline. If you've got lots of logic in there, you can't trace it. I mean, I've tried to trace logic through a plan, go out for a coffee, and I forget where I am, okay? And if you've got lots of logic, it's just a mass like a spider's web, okay? If you have a summary plan, you ain't got no detail. You can't see what's going on. And it normally just shows you some early dates or some later dates. It's very, very difficult to see how good the plan is. It looks very good, it looks very pretty, and sometimes it's just a PowerPoint. So the common problems we come across is there is lots of open-ended activities. You know, they're not linked at the front or not linked at the end, or they're just hanging in space. You've got high flow all over the place. You have long durations. You have negative lags. I've come across recently a large number of projects with a large number of negative lags. Why? I mean, I don't know, but they've got them. And there's long positive lags. And they've got constraints everywhere. The whole plan, it's locked solid. There's constraints, there's lags, there's leads. Nothing can move. So you need some standard for checking schedule quality. One of them is the DCMA. I don't know if you've come across the DCMA, but a lot of people are talking about the DCMA metric assessments. And it's 14 points. You'll see on the web, and lots of organisations say, our tool does a 14-point assessment. And the 14 points are, one, it's looking at logic. Is the plan linked together? The second one is leads. Have we got lots and lots of leads? That's distorting the schedule. Have we got lags? Lags are moving activities up and down. Why are they there? Relationships types. It should all be finish, start. But you get start, starts, finish, finishes, and all sorts of complex logic links just to hit a point in time. Are there lots of hard constraints? Have you got fixed dates in there? Because that's going to override any schedule analysis. And every tool treats a hard constraint differently when it calculates the critical path. Have you got high float? If you've got high float, why have you got high float? Is the activity in the wrong time frame, or have you forgotten to link it into somewhere? Negative float. Yeah, okay. Most plans have negative float, especially after they've started. High durations. I haven't got any detail. I don't know what's going on, so I just bung in an activity lasting 6 months. Someone will come up with an answer later. Resources. You've got all these activities. Have they got resources? If not, why is the activity there? What's it doing? Have you got any missed tasks? When you're progressing a plan, have some tasks been missed and we've carried on and there's a task sitting back in history? Have we tested the critical path? Is it valid? Does it make sense? And then there's the old earned value CPLI and BEI measures once a plan started. So those are the 14 points when people talk about the DCMA 14 point. Nothing flash, nothing unusual. Another one that is quite often talked about is the Government Accountability Office, which is a little more loose, but when they look at a plan, are all activities captured? Is a WBS capturing all the activities? Does every activity belong to a WBS? Does the WBS reflect the work? Are the activities all sequenced? Have we got resources on activities? Have all the activities got durations? People who are doing plans by hand or even in MSP sometimes forget to put a duration in because they're going a bit too fast. Have we got a real critical path? Have we done a risk analysis? And that's GAO, not so specific as a DCMA, where the DCMA actually have real measures. Okay? So we need to think about metrics. And what is a metric? It's a measure. You could say on a project, one metric could be number of activities, something as simple as that. So it's just a measure of something. It could be anything. Number of constraint dates, number of logic links. And a metric score, is just a count of activities. We've got 40 summary tasks out of a total of 1,000 tasks. That's what it means by a metric score. A metric percentage is just where you divide one by the other. And quite often organisations have a tripwire or a threshold which says that if my percentage is greater than X percent, it goes red or amber or green. Okay, so by metrics we really have these 4 points. And we talk about logic checks. Everyone says logic checks. Okay, have we got any start dangles? Have we got any end dangles? It's not just there. What about logic density? What's our average number of logic links compared to the number of activities? Is that a pattern? Are some projects in our organisation got an average of 3 and some got 7? Why have we got that difference? Summary logic. Have we got any logic on summary tasks? Right. You should never do it, but people do. Have we got any what I call merge hotspots? And that's where you have many predecessors coming in to one activity. Have you got diverge hotspots where you've got many successors coming from an activity? And what about redundant logic? A plan's built up and you put all this logic in. There's loads and loads of changes. You don't need these links anymore. it just confuses the plan, and if you have to change the plan, you're going to forget some of these redundant links. You're going to get in a mess. What about out-of-sequence progressing? You're going to progress that activity when that one's not finished. Was it because the link was wrong, or because someone's just gone and done the easy bits? This is quite often. And quite often people do resource logic. They don't realise they're doing resource logic, but they link activity A and B because Fred's working on A and B, so I'll put a link in there, But that's not real logic. Any tool should be able to schedule based on the resources. And once you've got a resource logic in there, if you decide that Joe's going to do it instead of Fred, you forget about that logic link. It still stays there. I was talking about how I mentioned pinch points, and merge is where you get many links into one activity. So if one of these activities isn't finished, the successor can't start. Is that going to happen? Are the resources just going to sit and wait because there's one little activity not done? And what's going to happen? They're going to start the work a bit later because they can get on with some of it. So you're going to get out-of-sequence progressing. And on a diverge, when you've got, say, one point in time feeding many activities, are they all going to start at the same time? Is that really sensible? Are they all linked into one special thing? Okay, merge and diverge pinch points. Again, these 37 projects, capital projects, were looked at, and two different measures were made. They measured logic density, which is the average number of links per activity. So they got lots and lots of plans, how many logic links, how many activities. Then they looked at this redundancy index when they went through the plans and said, okay, how many logic links don't we really need? They're covered by other logic links. And they plotted a graph of one against the other. What it showed was this. And this is the, the logic density. And up here is the redundancy index. Obviously, you shouldn't get below 2 because every activity should have something coming in and something going out. So if you get below 2, yeah, okay, we'll ignore that one. And what they found was that round about 4, it was quite sensible. There was about 15-20% redundant links. Once you start to get more and higher logic density, you have more and more redundant links. So one sort of metric or check you could make is, okay, let me have a look at my logic density. Oh, I've got a logic density of 8. There's a fair chance I've got all these redundant links, and there's going to be a mess in my plan, okay? And there's a full paper about this on our website, and there's all nice words with it. Okay, so that was some pattern. So that's one metric you can use. It doesn't give you a pure answer, but it's indicating that there could be something wrong. Okay. Leads and lags. Okay. Leads and lags. Well, okay. Are they resource lags? I mean, people put lags in the plan because someone's on holiday for 2 weeks. A resource lag, or they're working on another project, so I'm going to bung in a resource lag. Are they delivery lags? If you're putting a lag there because something's being delivered and it's going to be 8 weeks, and how can I progress these lags? When you look at a nice printout, it doesn't always print out all these lags, and all you get is these activities. And you can't see why is this one back 8 weeks or 7? Why? I can't see it. So ideally, can I replace a lag with a real-time activity? Instead of saying, a lag of concrete cure, why can't I put an activity, a weight concrete cure? It's a real activity. I can see it. I can measure it. Okay. Or can I bung in a milestone? Instead of having a delivery, can I not put in a nice big milestone? Delivery from Fred Smith, 4th of June. And why have I got these leads? Why are they there? I mean, I've seen a lot of plans with negative lags or leads, and I still can't understand why people use them. I've seen them quite a lot, especially on construction projects. I mean, how can you have a successor starting 4 days before the predecessor, which is only 3 days long? I mean, that's not uncommon. Other problems. What about if you've got lots of activities with large floats? Have you got missing links? Are there some links missing from a plan? If I got high duration, why have I got high duration? What's my average duration of my project? Why on my project I've got loads and loads of stuff lasting 1 day and 2 days? And then suddenly there's some activities with 3, 4, 5 month duration. Ignoring the fact that they could be management hammocks. Why are they there? And also hard constraints. Every planning tool treats hard constraints differently, and you have to understand how your scheduling tool treats them. Some of them come to a hard constraint, you've lost all your critical path, and it starts again from zero flow. Others carry the critical path through, and so how you use hard constraints has to be tied in with how your tool does its time analysis. Constraints, what are they? Delivery dates, reviews? Do you really know why you've got those constraints in there? I mean, you shouldn't have too many constraints in the plan. What about open ends on constraints? A lot of the time, people come along, they do a plan, they've got lots of activities, and they go, I don't know, I've bung on a date. And so you get some dates stuck in the plan because someone didn't know where to link it. You have to understand how float is treated around constraints. And I always avoid hard constraints. By a hard constraint, I mean an activity or a milestone that's got a start date and a finish date on it. CPM always goes wrong with a hard constraint. The tools don't really know what to do. And quite often you can get a start date on a Monday and a finish date on a Friday night because of how the tools operate. Calendars, okay? Many tools use many calendars. You've got to use a reasonable number of calendars. If you've got so many calendars, where are they all being used? Make sure a resource calendar doesn't clash with an activity calendar. You can't have resources only working at weekends if your calendar on the activity is 5-day working. I mean, that's a bit extreme, but you've got to make sure that the calendars match. Use sensible detail. You don't want an hourly calendar on a 3-year project, stupid. Or you don't want a weekly calendar on a short-term maintenance contract. And you also have to be careful about using multiple calendars on a sequence of activities, because logic links may have their own calendars, or logic links may adopt the calendar either from the predecessor or the successor. I'm not sure how the different tools treat it, but you have to be very, very careful using multiple calendars. Okay, how can I improve? You've got to set yourself some targets, i.e. no end angles. I don't think that's possible, but you could say, okay, I'm going to set a target of 1%, 2%, 10% or something. So you need to set some targets. No project will have more than 25 constraint days. You've got to know where your problems are. There's no point in saying, oh, these are my targets, if you don't know where you are today. Okay? How can you close a gap from here to here? And you've got to set a time scale. You can't go from having average plans to really fantastic plans next week. It doesn't work. You've got to educate people. You've got to train people. You've got to explain to people why you're doing it. And also, if you've got many projects in your organisation, why are some good, and why are some bad? Is it because of people, type of projects, organisation? There's going to be a pattern somewhere. There's always going to be 1 or 2 projects that are good and 1 or 2 are bad. You need to find out why the good ones are good. Okay, in the past, this is very difficult to do. Okay? You would have your scheduling program, and then you would throw all the data into Access or some other database or Excel, and you'd sit there with doing all your macros, doing all the analysis, analysis, and then suddenly someone says, I've changed the plan, I better update it for you, or I forgot to send you this piece of information. So people didn't bother. They would just do some simple measures. It got too difficult. This, looking at your plan, it's not a one-off exercise. You can't just look at your plan and go, right, that's it, great, fantastic. Because as time goes on, things change, things move, things happen. Activities may get added or deleted. Logic can change. You might change a resource. The critical path will change. As you progress through a plan, the critical path will switch. Start and finish dates. All sorts of changes will occur. And when you have a new baseline after some nice change from a client, you want to know, why has the baseline changed? You know, what has changed? I want to compare these two plans. You really need some sort of tool. I mean, there's a load of tools on the market. Manual checking is very labour intensive. I've sat down in a darkened room with reams and reams of paper trying to go through a plan. And you get so bored in the end, you get so lost, and you think, oh, was that 97 or was it 79? And you forget. It's very easy to miss things. Telephone rings, someone comes in, and you forget where you are. And also, I do it differently to someone else would do it. And so when I look at a plan, I'm not going to do it the same as you are. So there's no consistency. So when you compare projects, are these numbers the same? Do they mean the same? Okay. So you really need a repeatable process. And you want it now. You don't want it next week, next month, 5 hours time. You want it now. You want a quick answer. There's a tool example. You may have seen this tool, I don't know. And this is where this tool is looking at DCMA metrics. It's going through the 14 points, and it's coming up with some numbers, with some RAG status, red, amber, green. And then you're looking at logic metrics, similar sort of thing, very quick, very easy. And there's a large number of tools that will do this for you. Similarly, tools will compare things, and you can see where there's activities added or there's costs have changed. And using one of these tools, and I think Primavera includes a tool which will do some of this for you when you buy it. You can do lots of these comparisons very, very quickly, you know, and get a feel about how good or how bad your project is. Benefits. Okay. You can't do earned value unless you've got a real good schedule. People go off, they do a plan, they do a schedule, they have a baseline review, and they start to do earned value. But if your plan's no good, any earned value that you do is going to be pretty weak, pretty poor. What about change control? If your plan's really weak, are your changes because the plan was a load of rubbish, or are they real changes because of scope changes? What about capacity planning? If you've got a weak plan, can you really roll all your plans up to get a total picture of the whole organisation? Okay? Integrating contractor schedules gets a lot easier if you've all got good quality plans you can trust as you're bringing stuff together. If you've got a matrix organisation, if all your plans are of a similar standard, you can bring them together. There's no point in bringing really good and really bad plans, because all you end up with is a bad mess. And benefits we've learnt at OTC Optima is we started using metric tools 18 months ago for carrying out major project reviews. And we used to spend hours and hours going through bits of paper. Because we were going to organisations, we didn't always have the tool that they had. They may be using Asda or Primavera or what have you. So we had to use paper. And we would spend hours going through all these paper reports. Then we'd have to ask someone else to do a paper report for us. And we're all doing it differently. And we couldn't repeat it. we'd go into an organisation, and then the next time we went in there, we'd have different people, and they all have a different bent, they all have a different bias, okay? We also found that when we used a tool, the time was reduced so much, we could spend so much more time on looking at accelerating the schedule or looking at risk on a schedule. Okay? And also, what was most important was that once the clients had a schedule they could trust, that they felt was reliable, they could move on to the next step and start to do earned value properly and change control properly. Okay? Many of the time we've gone in somewhere and we've had to spend time improving their schedules before we can implement earned value. And naturally, client satisfaction increased. Oh, that was only half an hour. Do you have any questions? I talked about tools, by the way. If I go back, sorry, it's on this one. Oh, I had a list of tools somewhere. Okay, there are. There's tools like Schedule Cracker, there's Schedule Checker. If you go on the web and sort of type in project analytics or project metrics, up will come a list of tools. Okay, they're all fairly easy to use. Okay. Have you got any questions? No questions? Yes. Oh, those graphs. Yeah, if you go to a website called the Acumen website and look under on the right-hand side, presentations and references, there's those graphs with all the words in there and all the details and actually who did the analysis. There's a couple of guys from the university in Houston who did it on behalf of a client, yeah. And there's a few more graphs in there as well, yeah.
Is it possible to have a copy of your presentation, please?
Yeah? Do you want me to stick have you got a laptop with you?
No. I've got a memory stick.
Yeah, I'll stick it on the memory stick if you want afterwards. Yeah? Yeah, no panic. Okay, if there's no more questions then.